control what you can control. So for me, control what I can control is my effort I put in every day, showing up to the rink, prepared, ready to work, ready to learn, ready to get better, all those things, right?
All right, well, welcome to another show of Searching for Hope, where we're going on a journey of finding how people find hope through seasons of uncertainty. Today, we're really excited to have Byron Froese joining us. Byron is the current captain of the Stockton Heat down in California. He's a friend of mine and someone who I look forward to exploring his story a little bit more and his journey in the professional hockey world. So, Byron, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. So maybe to get started, I've been asking everyone this just because it's a fun little for people to get to know you outside of maybe what we're going to talk about. What is it that makes you come alive? Like, what's Byron comes alive in, or when I'm doing this? Other than maybe hockey is the answer, but
I'd probably say like some of my favorite things to do would be playing some games, whether it's card games or board games, anything. I'm pretty competitive, so I think the competitive nature kind of makes me come alive.
Mini sticks, by any chance?
Yeah, anything competitive. Doesn't matter what it is. My brothers can attest to it. We've had quite a few heated battles of you name it. Downstairs hockey, backyard baseball. Anything competitive, anything sporting, anything like that. I can get behind it right away.
I have many memories of that. The Froese household was always pretty intense in the basement.
Yeah, you've been a part of some of it too. So,
yes, good times. So part of what we're exploring as a show, and I mean, we started this maybe out of the uncertainty of the season we as a world, country, people are living in with what's going on around us. And so we wanted to explore hope and how did people find hope in different seasons of uncertainty. And one of the things I've thought about when I thought about asking you, Byron, was, I mean, your journey in and within professional hockey has been up and down and probably had moments of pure joy and celebration, like playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sure that was one of the most exciting. And maybe even some downs of being told no. And so I'd love to explore a little bit of that journey. I mean, I think one of the things I even just in talking to a few years ago, I just remember coming out of that as a realization. I think everybody dreams of maybe being that pro hockey player, like the dream of your life. But then as I sat and listened, I thought, holy, I don't know if I can manage that life. It doesn't actually sound that fun.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to it. And you know what? It can almost be day to day, the highs and lows, right? Like you can go out and play a really good game, have a great shift even. Like you can break it down into so many different levels where, things are going great. They can be going great, rolling great, and all of a sudden you have a day and it just like brings you right back to reality. There's actually something our coach this year always talked about was like the humility of it. Never get too high. Especially early, our team was doing really well. It just seemed like everything was kind of bouncing our way, clicking our way. Even if it didn't bounce our way, we found a way through it. And just always talking about humility, not getting too high, not getting too low. You got to stay as even keel as you can. And that's something that I've definitely learned over, my 8-year career so far in pro is that it's a constant battle. It's a constant daily thing where you got to check your ego at the door. You got to check make sure you're not getting too high, too low on a daily basis. And if you can do that, if you can stick with that, you also got to keep your personality. You got to keep your character to where you want it to be, where it should be. When you look back on your career.
I mean, talking about daily highs and lows, do you have maybe a high moment in your career, and do you have like a low? Like, has there been like a low in this journey where it's like that was a really low point and like that was hard?
I'd definitely say my lowest point I've ever been throughout this would probably be after my third year pro. Like thinking back on it, my first year pro, like thinking back on it now is kind of waste, but it was also not. Like it took a lot for me to learn how to have your own confidence, how to how to have that perspective of, being happy with where you're at and enjoying where you're at. And I think that's my biggest thing from hope is, perspective is realizing how good you have it at times when it seems like it's like you don't have it good at all, or even the opposite too, like realizing, things are going great right now and they're not always going to be that great, or might not always be that great. Right. So for me, that at the end of my third year pro, I came off a high. Actually, I got sent down, which sucked, but I ended up going to a better team, and we made it all the way to the conference to the finals, and lost in Game 6 of the finals. And talk about high low, right? You're right there. You're right on the verge of winning something that you might never do again in your career. You might never win again in your career, right? And then to come off of that, feeling great, and then you go in the summer and you can't get an NHL contract. You can't get it in, like, I had some AHL opportunities, but they weren't great perspective wise, like thinking back on it, the opportunity that I would have got if I would have taken it. So coming out of that, and then your options are signing an AHL two-way, or and probably only playing in the coast for that whole time and being limited to one team like I was the last 3 years, or taking an East Coast League deal. And it's never great to be in the East Coast League. For those of you that don't know, it's kind of the very bottom of the barrel. I mean, I know there's further down, but it's hard to get yourself out of playing in the East Coast once you're there. So that was definitely a moment where me and Teal had talked, and and she was always been supportive of it, but I kind of just said, what, if I'm going to give it one more year, and if it doesn't work out, I'll call it quits, and we'll move on with life and do something else. Right. But that's, like, talk about a low. It's, you're kind of at your wit's end. You're kind of like, is it even worth it to keep trying? Like, you kind of start self-doubting, losing that hope, that means losing that sight of your dream too. All that stuff piles up, and you can definitely get yourself into a pretty dark place.
So, like, I remember, I mean, I wasn't around, or I just remember hearing, it might have been from your parents or a sibling, or it might have been my parents through your parents. I have no idea, but I remember hearing when you got drafted, which was like, and yet 4th round, I think, if that's right, something like that, to the Blackhawks, which was like, whoa, like, that's so cool. And then now you're talking about this point in the ECHL. What was it maybe that, how did you keep having hope? Like, how did you push through a year like that? And I mean, you ended up, it took you was it a year and a half after that you played your first game in the NHL? Yeah,
so it was just under a year. I think it was 10 or 11 months that I played my first game in the NHL after that, starting that season. So it definitely, it's everything I've done, or everything I've experienced, it's all been a learning curve. And, if I could look back on it now and tell myself at 20 that this is kind of how the pro industry is, you definitely come into it a lot more prepared, right? Like, it took a lot of learning. It took a lot of, there's a lot of pain in learning that stuff. And there's also a lot of, like, joy in learning it too, right? In different points. So, yeah, sorry, I forget the question again now.
Totally, that's fine. Curious, what was it that brought you that hope? Like, was it faith? Was it people around you? Was it a certain coach? Was it Teal?
Yeah, so
where did you actually find the hope to actually put your skates on?
Yeah,
every game,
definitely a bunch of different spots. Like, there's hope from within. Like, you still have that dream. I always grew up, I knew I wanted to be a hockey player when I was growing up. Obviously, I didn't think it would be attainable, really. I mean, it's always a dream, and it's a dream of a lot of kids, but it's such a slim margin to be able to get there and to get that chance. But so obviously that hope from within, that I still wanted to be there. I still believe that I could be there. I still thought, there's a possibility of it. Maybe at that third year point, I think I probably had lost a lot of sight of that, but just knowing that coming off a good season, that gives you hope. Hope came definitely from my wife, Teal. She definitely was always alongside me, always never doubted me, always kept pushing on my dreams and pushing me to keep going, and supporting me in that, never saying, oh, it would have been easy for her to say, like, okay, it's probably enough, which, like, I'm moving my life and giving up my career, all this, and we're going to play in the East Coast League. Like, it could have been so easy for her to say that, but definitely very supportive to instill that hope in me as well. Obviously, my parents, growing up, you know, when you have a good upbringing like I did, like a lot of us are fortunate to have, that obviously instills that hope in you to never quit, to keep working for it. And I knew all along that I kind of had that desire in me, because I was training myself before I even got anywhere worth training. Right? It was just such a big dream of mine that I didn't want to quit working for it. Um, so definitely that. My agent has always been unbelievable for me. I've had the same agent since 17. Before I even knew what agents did, or that I even needed an agent. He was there, and he's just been such a staple in my career, in my life. He kept fighting for me even when I was in the East Coast League, which most agents, well, you'd be kind of in the back burner. You wouldn't hear from them if you called them. So he's definitely been a big instiller of hope. He's always believed in me. Yeah, it's so many. Like every time I step on the ice, I know there's a whole community back home that are cheering me on and praying for me and thinking about me, and same thing in Calgary. So I feel very blessed to have that support, and it's a big support staff that it takes to get through some of the hard times. And you know, they don't get the praise in the good times necessarily, but you definitely still think about them for sure.
This is just a fun question. Maybe some people might be interested. I'm interested. Do you have like a favorite memory? Like maybe not a high or a low, but like, is there like a fun story or a fun moment within your journey or career that is like, I'll never forget that one? It could be fun, could be, yeah.
Uh, there's plenty of those for sure.
I mean, ones that we can put on video. No.
Yeah, I would like a funny story that's maybe a little different from the topic, but one funny story is we were in St. Louis before. I don't know if we were playing the next day or 2 days out, but and so there's maybe I don't know. Should I tell that one? Anyways, I'll keep it more brief than what it would be full, but. Basically, we were in St. Louis, and Dion Phaneuf was taking the whole team out for dinner. He was going to buy dinner for everybody, and he was our captain with the Leafs then at the time. And so he's being a really nice guy doing this, obviously. But so we go to a steakhouse. It's really expensive. We have a bunch of bottles, like a couple bottles of wine. They're probably pretty expensive too. Don't know how much they would have cost, but just having a nice steak dinner, and kind of closer to the end of the dinner, right about as dessert's about to come out, one of the guys, I think it was Tyler Bozak, stood up and said, "Okay, guys, like Dion does this way too much for us. Like he's always like being very generous with this, and we can't let him pay for this one. So we're gonna take 2 credit cards. Everyone's gonna throw their credit card in a hat, and it's called the credit card game. And the last 2 cards that get pulled, they're gonna pay for dinner." And here you are. Like I think I was maybe up for. It's my first year up, and I was maybe up for like a month or 2 at the time, right? So it'd be a pretty expensive bill. It probably, I don't know, can't even remember seeing the bill. It's probably around 6,000 or 7,000 if you split it. And so they pull all the cards out. They're one by one, and guys are obviously celebrating when their card gets pulled out. And it gets down to, I think it was me, Frankie Corrado, and one other guy, and of course, they pull out the other guy's card. So me and Frankie Corrado are supposed to pay for this dinner. So they bring us the check, and we have to fill out the tip and everything. Or I think the tip was already filled out, and we have to sign. They take our credit card, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And all the guys are like talking, like, "Ooh, that hurts, eh? That's a tough one to swallow." Like, just got like, it was right before Christmas too and stuff. And I think we were like, me and Frankie both looked at each other, were like, "Well, I guess there's no Christmas gifts this year." Like, tough to soak this one up. And then the waiters come back with the bills or whatever, and it just says, "Haha, we got you on it," or something like that. It was all set up by Dion and the captains and stuff like that, just to play a fun little prank. So, but we were definitely sweating it out.
Oh, that's hilarious. Because probably deep down, you're like, I kind of want to say I can't do it. Like, I'm not ready to do this, but you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, so there's a couple of other guys that weren't in on it. The reason they picked us, I guess, was because we were rookies, right? So they were trying to play a little prank on us. I don't think Corrado was, but I was, and I was the only one there that was. And there's a couple other guys that weren't in on it that didn't know it was going to happen, and they were losing their cool a little bit, saying expressing themselves of what a joke it was, and so it definitely made it feel pretty real. And being a rookie and first time in NHL, I wasn't about to sit there and complain. I just was probably pretty red in the face, and I was just like, oh boy, but didn't say anything, didn't want to complain, just kind of tried to laugh it off.
What's a high moment in your career? What would be like man, that was a high. I remember that vividly.
I'd definitely say playing your first pro game was definitely a high. I think I was so unaware and so oblivious to all of it, but like just to even when I signed my first contract, that'd be a big high. And then to come in and play my first game pro, even though I wasn't in the right mindset for confidence wise for my ability, it still is such a great memory that you won't forget. And then playing your first NHL game was definitely obviously the biggest one, but for sure, because you're playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're playing on Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada. You grow up watching that, and you're playing against the Montreal Canadiens, shooting against Carey Price, like all these things. You could just name off the highs of that night for sure. And then again, you come back to playing for the Canadiens, a couple years later. That was obviously a big high growing up, being my favorite team, being a team that we watched and my family loved. It was definitely a special moment. Even just anytime you sign a contract, I feel like it's a huge high just to have that relief of having a job for another year or two or however many you sign for, right? It's knowing that you have some income for your family, you can support your family for another year or two. And because you don't, in hockey, your career is kind of a lot shorter than most other careers. So you got to make sure you can make do while you're able and while they still want you is a big part too. So those are big highs. I think other than that, I'd say definitely, winning championship or being close to championships, losing in 2 game sixes can also be seen as a low, but it's those moments when you're playing in those important games and in the finals and, being 1 game away or 2 games away each time is tough to swallow, but it's also something that when we look back, it's some of the best memories that we have. So, and then other highs, I mean, maybe not as high as those other memories, but, living in different cities is cool. You get to experience a lot of different culture. I mean, yeah, it comes with a lot of headaches of finding a place to live, moving, leaving family, friends, not knowing anybody. Like there's a lot of high and low in that for sure. But again, you go back to perspective. If you think back of your time there and you change your perspective to enjoying it, to trying it out, you can definitely enjoy a lot of the more highs and definitely what could be a low situation.
Yeah, I remember. I have to say, when you first signed your contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I had a pretty big smile on my face.
Yeah, I believe that.
My family was a Toronto Maple Leafs fan growing up, and yours was the Canadiens. So what better signed for the Leafs?
There was definitely a lot of funny remarks, funny comments for sure, with my family being such big Habs fans, and the city and everybody they know. Got to poke fun at them a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Do you have like a simple, whether it be a mantra or something you go to, even for the day-to-day highs and lows? Like I have that's maybe the wrong way to put it, but I remember when you were playing for the Canadiens, your line was just hot. Like you're doing really well. So I'd planned to come up to Montreal to come watch a game. I was all excited. That morning you found out you weren't playing. It was like, yeah. I'm kind of like, what the heck? Like, really? Like, weren't they hot? Like, I swear they just had 2 points last night. Like, that was like an example. Like, those ups and downs are like every day, and you could be told no today and then told you're the best tomorrow. What is there like something you have for those day-to-days that you keep remembering or reminding yourself of?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing in hockey, the biggest one that you hear from sports psychologists for mantras or saying or something to keep in mind is always control what you can control. So for me, control what I can control is my effort I put in every day. Showing up to the rink prepared, ready to work, ready to learn, ready to get better. All those things, right? But there's definitely times when there's a lot of stuff out of control, especially in this industry. There's a lot out of control. Someone else can get a call up when you think you're playing better, or it's completely out of your hands. Other than what you put on the ice, and even sometimes what you put on the ice can be out of your control. How much ice time you get, like there's so much that can be out of your control. But if you focus on what you can control in that moment, in that season of life, anything, your headspace gets back into the right perspective, and you start thinking, and you actually will utilize that time, whatever you get, the time, the opportunity, you'll utilize that better because you'll be more prepared for that time. So I remember that stretch in Montreal. It's another big high low, because I finally, I'm playing for the Canadiens, which is awesome, but you also never know day to day whether you're going to get sent down or whether you're going to be in the lineup, all those things. And we got into a good rhythm for the month and playing really well. And I remember going into Christmas break, I was like, wow, like I finally have established myself, as a fourth liner in the NHL. It's a role player that can be very effective. And nothing happened in between Christmas break and our next game. But next game I was out. Played the next game, barely got to play, or I think I don't remember if I barely got to play or played really well. I don't know, but didn't think I was worth getting sent or sat again. And the next thing you know, I sat for the next, I think it was 30 of the last 35 games or something like that. So of the season. So you go into the season with this high and like have this big hope for, establishing a good career in the NHL. And the next thing you know, you're kind of rock bottom and all that hope is shattered. So, in times like that, it's just, it's tough. As easy as to say after the fact, it's tough in the moment to really understand or put into perspective. But the faster you can do that, and realize that, you're still very blessed, that there's still people that love you. There's still bigger things other than work or your situation. You can definitely get through it a lot quicker and enjoy getting through those tough times.
How do you, like, when I think, so you played that last game, was it, you said somewhere before Christmas in Montreal? Maybe
last game was
one more game after sometime.
Yeah.
You got sent to Tampa Bay for a few games, really.
That was the next year.
Yeah. Oh, that was the next year.
Or sorry, that was 2 years. That was the year before, I think it was.
Oh, was that the year before? Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, you end up back at Laval, and you get voted in as captain of an AHL team, which it's got two things to it. Like, one, it's an affirmation of everything you've been working for, the character, all those things that are below the surface. It's saying you're more than enough. But it also, when you are voted captain or become captain of an AHL team, you also realize maybe it's going to be more and more difficult to find my way back up into the NHL because they want me to lead the young generation.
Yeah, and that's that's definitely part of it for sure. Like even this year too, when I got named captain, I kind of said, I'm like, does this like limit my chances of getting called up, or is this just? And he's like, no, like. And my coach is honest too. He said, no, it doesn't limit, like not at all. It's not going to stop you from anything. Like it's just, we think that your character shows, and so it's honestly, it's always an honor to get named captain, and it's something that I would relish. It's a role that, it's important role for sure. But with that being said too, it definitely comes with a lot of weight too. You got a lot of responsibility, and you got to make sure you can live up to that responsibility as well. So I've enjoyed it throughout the few years. It's been awesome. I think as the years go by, I've gotten a little bit better at it than when I first started. But that's kind of any leadership role. You got to learn, what it takes, how to communicate with your teammates. Everybody's different on the team. You got people coming from all over the world, really. So to be able to involve everybody and realize what they need at certain moments is big, but then you also can't forget about yourself too, because you can definitely start focusing too much on other people at times and neglect yourself, and that's not healthy either.
Oh yeah. I'd love to hear, if you're okay going here, just out of curiosity, when you think of hope, has your faith played any role in finding some hope along the way? Has it not? Where has that connected, or has that not been something that really, if not?
It absolutely has, I would say. I think it just goes along with the character side of it, more so just to know. I when I left home at 17, I remember telling myself, I was like, I don't want to change who I am. I don't want to be a different person here. I don't like, because it's so easy when you go from one team to another, or you start, from one community to another, to just change your personality and adapt to what's comfortable, to what's so maybe socially accepted more, than others. I had kind of told myself when I left home that I didn't want to change who I was, or change my personality. And I'd be lying if I would say there wasn't temptations to, or opportunities to, for sure. And definitely when you go to different teams, maybe I can definitely see your character building off of it. But it definitely takes a conscious effort to, stay true to who you are and stay true to your faith, your beliefs. And I think just in that alone, knowing that you have strength in your personality and who you are and who you want to be, brings you hope in any situation. Obviously, coming into the season that we're coming into, it gives you a lot of hope too, for a resurrected Savior is definitely something that everybody needs. You need it, you rely on it, and to be saved is definitely something special. To be called son of God and or a brother in Christ is big. So but no, the hope that I think God brings into my life is definitely shown through my career. I think anytime you're in any dark place, any job, if you're in life, if you're in a dark place, it's such a good place to turn to rely on, that faith that you have as a person, or I don't know, this isn't going very well, but
Well, that's good. That answers my question, Byron. I don't want to force that. I feel like you've answered it so clearly. Like in a way, so much of it just revolves around. It's centered around the character that you desire to be. And
yeah, like that's kind of,
that's what
like,
I'm hearing. Like,
put it this way, I've never in my career, and I kind of said this going into it too, and maybe it's not the right mindset, but for me, I was like, I'm never going to force my faith on other people, because I have the opportunity to. I've met the amount of people that you meet through this career is amazing, and I always said I want my faith to shine through my character, to show through who I am as a daily, coming to the rink and, doing little things, whether it's, putting in an honest effort every day. That I think that shows your faith just as much as, going out and preaching to somebody. Maybe it's in a different way, but I think when you're spending time with the same people, almost every day, like you get one day off a week at max kind of thing. And so you're around these people for 2 to 3 hours every day. Your character is going to rub off on them, and they're going to see, your faith is going to rub off on them as well. So for me, that's how I went into it. But the hope side is definitely added to my hope, and just consistency and my ability to be who I am, I think, is definitely propelled my career.
Cool. I have three maybe final questions for you. One would be, what advice would you give to someone in their early teens who has a dream? Maybe that's not to be a hockey player. That could be to be a dancer. That could be to be a singer. That could be to be a hockey player, or to run a business, whatever that might be. What advice would you have now looking back to say, keep pushing? Like, how do you keep pushing forward, and how do you persevere?
I definitely say hard work pays off. It might not even pay off in the way that you want it to pay off, But if you keep working hard and you keep pushing and you keep that hope up and you keep that confidence up and you don't ever quit. Like you can, maybe you have to change angles that you're going at it, or maybe you have to change certain things, but if you're willing to work and to put in the time, put in the effort, it's going to work out in one way or another, whether it's to the goal that you wanted to, or whether it brings you in different areas. I think definitely in faith, you see that a lot. You might not know why you're doing something, but and maybe it's shown to you later on, a couple months down the road, a couple of years down the road, you never know. But when you answer that call, when you have that feeling and you keep going to it and pushing for it, good things always end up happening.
Oh, cool. And this is a big question to ask, and maybe you've thought about this, but for a lot of people, I think in southern Manitoba, even Byron Froese is Byron Froese, the professional hockey player. A lot of people are also Byron Froese, the friend, the high school mate, whatever it might be. But for a lot of people, you're a professional hockey player. Beyond that, what do you want people to remember about Byron Froese? Like, if people were to think about Byron Froese instead of thinking hockey player, what do you want people to think of?
Yeah, I definitely think, like, good character, good guy. You always want to be, everyone wants to be liked, obviously, but you want to be liked for the right reasons. So I think that's definitely a big part. Yeah, being someone who cares about others, obviously that's what everybody wants to, is just to be loved and to love others and to have other people know that you love, or that you're caring about them and loving on them and that kind of thing. So I'd just probably say that character would be a big thing, and to know, who I am besides being besides a hockey player, because that definitely doesn't last and won't last. And you want to be known for something other than that. I know I've had plenty of conversations too. It's like, sometimes you're talking to, especially when you're in the season, you're talking and it just seems like it's all about hockey, all about that. And you want to be known for more than just that, for sure.
Oh, cool. And the last one, maybe hope. Advice would you give someone looking for hope in the season we're living in right now? It feels very uncertain. You're living in uncertainty. Your work has ended, and so what advice would you give to someone looking for hope in this season?
Yeah, I heard it in a message the other day. Just perspective. If you can alter your perspective, there's always a positive in something, and you just got to find it, and you got to set your attitude to want to find that positivity. For me, I got to spend a lot more time with my son, my family, my wife. It's obviously a blessing. Obviously, I'd love to be playing hockey too at the same time, but it's out of our control, really. And then again, you go back to control what you can control, and like I said before, I'd be lying if I'd say it's easy sometimes to find the positives and stuff. Just myself the other day, had to have a good chat with the wife and kind of readjust my bearings a bit, because I was getting a little too focused on negatives and what ifs and buts and what could have happened, and you kind of can spiral yourself into a place you don't want to be. So just anytime you can, just readjust your focus, make sure you understand what's going on and what you can control, and try to take the positives out of everything.
Cool. Well, Byron, thanks for joining us. I mean, this is fun, even just on a personal level, to have this conversation.
For sure.
That's a good reminder, and I think this is a good message for people to hear. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to have weekly episodes every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll be releasing a new episode. If you like the video, hit subscribe. Feel free to comment if you have something to say. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a story of hope that you think would be worth sharing, let us know. Our email is in our About section on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.
And I don't think that the hope faded until we had to fire ourselves and get a different job and have what we thought was going to be the end of Invisible Children. We never imagined it would be that way. And I think that's when the hopelessness kind of set in.